game, and it was great for its time, but the controls are what hold that game
64
back.
was not made for shooters. 64 was not designed for shooters.
Yeah, the controller holds it back.
That controller, that goddamn UFO controller, what the hell?
Technology of a controller.
The last time that I was on the show with you guys, we were talking about Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. And what's funny is that
might age well. That was just a really that might age well.
They remastered it, and I was playing that on stream last night, and it looks great when you remaster a game. And when you talk about the campaign mode, then that's fine because you can play that on your own, So that you get a single player experience with a good story and action packed stuff. You can keep playing that, but there's no online to that. And it's on PS Plus if you haven't picked it up already. So
Yeah, I should do that.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I should do that.
Great.
Okay, how about this? Wait, are we cheating? Every nowadays we cheating with retro games because we remaster them.
So
Because
you wouldn't have the game without the remaster, right? Like you can't remaster a game that didn't exist. So if they what they're doing for the remaster is really enhancing the visuals for that, and they're bringing it to a newer platform with better aesthetics.
There are situations where they remaster and fix some things or add some content, like with Rare Replay when they did Perfect Dark and Perfect Dark Zero, they fixed the controls. They did that with Jet Force Gemini too, because boy, the controls on that were garbage.
Yeah,
but
still
that just wasn't a good game.
Yeah.
So
okay, Jet Force Gemini did not age well. All right, you got that out of me. But
yeah, for the most part, it's just like a graphical overhaul.
Yeah. And when you go back, right behind me, I got Street Fighter EX2 going, right? And that game plays really well right now. It feels like you're playing at least. It's very natural. I mean, it's not easy to see probably, but yeah, I challenge anyone to find and play Street Fighter EX2 and just be like, it's a bad game. It's not a bad game. It's fun.
Yeah, I think that was better than 3.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely better. That game's that's a dumpster fire.
That was the first one I played, so I was like, "Oh, this is sick." And then I went back to play 2, and I was like, "Oh, this is amazing."
Experience. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Right.
And failed.
Because I think this will probably. I guess this is definitely good stuff. I guess it's a perfect transition to go into the high score. Talk a little bit about that. It's like the Netflix documentary that was just about the history of gaming. I checked that out a little bit. I talked a little bit about Kage here. I checked out the first episode, just the intro into the history of gaming, how gaming came to be, starting with Space Invaders, with Pong, and how the guy from Space Invaders came with Pong, starting from there. And, and then there's more, there's 6 episodes or something like that.
Yeah.
But then episode 5 is fighting games, or episode 5 goes into the history of fighting games. And that was interesting because I didn't know a lot about Street Fighter 1. And they actually went into pretty much how Street Fighter 1 came to be. The guy who designed the stages, the stages, the art, all the art style for the game. And then we went to the guy who designed the characters for the game. The guy who designed Chun-Li, or pretty much came out as the idea of how Chun-Li came to be, which was sick actually, because you never really hear about that. You kind of just see the character, get to know the character as they are, when you first interact with them. But then to hear straight out of the origins, this is literally how the character came to be on paper. Before, this is what they was before the one them now. And just to get that whole outlook on just different kind of video games, especially fighting games, for us, is really dope. So let's talk a little bit about that. We didn't get to, again, me and Dave, we didn't peep the whole thing, but
about Chun-Li and my experience. So when I was a young buck, Street Fighter came to the. So this is Street Fighter Champion Edition. I've been playing Street Fighter since the World Warrior. days and whatever, so I was already good at the game. I'll cut from one to the other real fast. So I was using Chun-Li as a kid, as she was my main, and that was my girl. And then I stopped using her because Ryu was the last character that you would fight before the last 4 boss characters, because I couldn't beat him, and you couldn't do a mirror match on World Warrior. I started choosing Ryu to avoid fighting him, right? But so
that's
then
next level.
I switched it up. But then when Champion Edition came out at the video store down the block from me, I went to choose Chun-Li. The first day they brought Champion Edition into the freaking video store, I was bodying people. I was beating all the older kids and everything. And there was a line of people trying to play, but I was the only one, player 2, staying on the game. They had to be like maybe 15 or 16-year-old kids. They picked me up and moved me off of the game, and they beat me while I wasn't playing the game in order for me to lose so that I can go in the back of the line.
That's bullying. That right there, ladies and gentlemen, is bullying.
Right, and everything. But, that's what happened. That's what happened. So when I first saw Chun-Li's, I'm the strongest woman in the world, I'm like, wow, that's some shit right there. It's powerful.
I know, that's bars. I know, right? It's just like real rap. Who else is... She came with the Booker T energy.
Yep. Straight scissor kick, spinner Rooney. So
it was just like she took the whole she took the belt. She was just like she was about to call out. I thought she was gonna call out Hulk Hogan, even though he had a woman. Nope. I was like, damn, Hulk Hogan's catching all the heat. No, but I think there's parts about that, like even to your point, to take it to the doc when I don't remember his name, but for those check it out, who was coming up with the idea for Chun-Li at the time, and like kung fu movies was popular, they were popping, and he's like, oh, but there was like no there was also females in these kung fu movies as well, and he was like talking about the representation and just like, I want to make a dope kung fu character but have them female, and and I like, because nowadays everybody's all about, female empowerment and stuff like that. I'm just like, yo, like for all the shit, because also like for like fight like games get, and I'm just like, you have one of the oldest, like an old version of female representation you can get, and you have this character. You were talking about equality. She was giving hands
to everybody.
To other grown men, to everybody, and then it did her thing. Yeah, when she wins, she flexes. I'm the strongest woman in the world. Like, yo, I'm just saying, if you guys are looking for that type of representation, if you overlooking my girl Chun, you're doing something wrong. That's all I'm saying.
Word.
Which was dope. Like when you saw the history of that, and you're like, yo, Street Fighter as a franchise, even though Street Fighter V is not my least favorite of the titles right now, Capcom and what Street Fighter's done is huge. So it was really dope that they covered that in the doc.
It's funny, Guile was actually the one about true equality. He was telling everybody to go home and be a family man. He even told her.
Even Chun-Li, go home and be a family man.
He's like, you're not exempt.
That game was about Street Fighter 2 World War is all about equality, bar none.
Everyone's got hands, no matter where you're from in the world.
Where you're from, and even talking about like the stages, about using real places, going around the world, taking pictures, and even going into, which I like about like how the Street Fighter tournaments back in the day started. And they got to interview the guy who was like one of the first national in Japan for winners for Street Fighter 2. Yeah, back in the day. And I was like, oh shoot, I recognize this mofo. And then he because it led into esports, right? Yeah. And I think that's that's the big thing, about all of this now, because when a lot of people look at gaming, esports, and a lot of the roots of going in the arcades, like fighting people, playing people, trying to be the best, just for the just to want to be the best, not for the money, not for the fame, just for the sake of, yes, I beat everybody in my arcade, you know, things like that, like those type of old feelings and sentiments. You know, one day it led to what we have today, like the $101.8 billion industry that's esports, you know? Like, how do you guys feel about that? Like, the way arcades pretty much led into what we have today, where people can make full livings, like, can make a whole living off of their games. That was the guy himself. His story was, yeah, I won. Like, I was, like, you know, he loved Street Fighter, but, you know, after that, he conformed like everyone else and went and got a sales job, you know?
I think it's dope, honestly. I think it might be the same ratio of people who are able to get into pro sports, where, you know, you're probably going to be like in the 5% of the population who can play as well and also get a, you know, contract and be signed to play professionally. But the fact that you can play and maybe make it and get to a stage is really amazing. So I quickly wanted to say that there's an application called Fightcade where you can play games against other people online using your computer. So if you've never had the experience to play an arcade game and play against people who are good, or at least trying to get good, you can play Fightcade and feel what it is, what it was like to play at the arcade, because that's how it feels for me. So, you know, to answer your question, it's sick that, you know, esports is a thing, and without the arcade scene, without that foundation of getting those high scores and trying to beat those high scores, we wouldn't have that motivation and that drive to you know, have what we have today.
Yeah, like even you know, just and not even just to lean it so heavily on fighting games. Like, we love fighting games, but even take it to the first episode, like the first the Space Invaders tournament. Like, that was, I didn't even know Space Invaders, how old that game was. They were flexing like that. They had tournaments. You had people like lined up, and it was just based on score. Like, they're like, all right, ready, boom, like, go. People were just sitting in a chair an hour and a half. Hour and a half of Space Invaders, that's intense. I play the game. Like, I'm not, like, I don't put myself, I'm not good to be as those people, to be playing straight on one, I guess in the one quarter on Space Invaders for that long. And because that's the thing about those games too, is like the simple strategies there, but to execute it and to be good. I think just to be good at any game is not easy. You know, I think there's time and mastery that goes into it, and that Space Invaders, just even something that Space Invaders, like, you get to talk to the national champ, like, it goes to show, like, even the simplest of fighting games, when you put it in front of a person, like, and they make it their goal to master it, like, that's a journey in itself. And it was cool that that they took champions from these games, these unorthodox games, and like they tell you about, like, yeah, back then, of course they're old now, they're like, yeah, but I was 14, I would play this game all the time. Or like the Street Fighter champion in Japan, he was just like, my friend taught me, I bodied him, he was no longer a match for me, I went and fought other people. He became a world warrior. He just came like Ryu. He was like, it's literally the Ryu mindset. You go find people to fight and then test yourself. But I think it just gives that overall, like, the healthy competition that like someone who's young could definitely use, and it is definitely good for. And that's to bring into, like, highlight some other cool stuff about the doc. To go into, we mentioned this before we started the podcast. I want to get his name up because the black engineer, the software engineer who came up with the first cartridge. So like for games for Channel F. Damn. You got his name? Anyone got his name?
I'll get it.
Definitely want to do right by homeboy, because from what the doc covered, someone who was back in the day in his own garage, working and tinkering with computers and whatnot, came up with the first
Jerry Lawson
cartridge. Say it again.
His name is Jerry Lawson.
Yeah, Lawson. Yeah, Jerry Lawson. Like I said, software engineer. He was working for, was it Midway? Is one of these companies that are just like, you need to, like, when he was working with a company that ended up for Channel F, he basically made the cartridge so that you're able to switch off games, own one console and just to basically play different games. Because back then, games were only on one, like you had one system, it was mostly for one game.
Yeah, like Pong was console.
Like one console. Like Pong was a console. Like that's crazy. Like now, one console could play hundreds of games. Back then, you got Pong. All you're playing is Pong. People were livid. People got hyped. That's the thing. People were like, "Yo, Pong, let's go." They were about it. That's why I was like, "Damn, we spoiled." Now in the days, you can play over 300 games on one console, but it wouldn't be possible if one person didn't take the steps to get to where we are today. So shout outs to Jerry Lawson. I can't remember the year, but yeah, Channel F. Check it out if you don't know. Definitely some interesting stuff. Black inventor, so you already know. Black African American, doing it for the culture, especially for gaming, because a lot of us, gaming is where we grew up in. I know some other, you got any interesting stuff you want to point out, like from what we saw on the doc that was dope? I know Night Trap was hilarious. I think the story on Night Trap was funny.
It makes me think when they talk about the controversy that Mortal Kombat and Night Trap brought, like if you check out Mortal Kombat 11, I wish they would have spliced what Mortal Kombat 10 and 11 looked like compared to what it looked like in 1992, because
man,
you know what I'm saying, like, man, the shit that they do now is wild.
It ain't the next level. And you got to see Young Ed Boon. Yo, that's why I was like, Young Ed Boon. This man's really been making Mortal Kombat since he was a teenager, man. And to see how Mortal Kombat, and you're like, they took actual actors, like for the game, they took like green screens, actual actors doing jump-ins on trampolines.
Yeah.
The jump moves were being done on trampolines. To see all that, like, it looks so goofy and funny, but like, if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't have, like, Mortal Kombat 11, which is like one of the, like, Warner Brothers, like, high-selling Mortal Kombat games of just out there. Just period.
Actually, with that, you wouldn't even have NBA Jam because they use that same technology to put the players in NBA Jam.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They hired some guys.
The dunkers on trampolines and.
Yeah, they hired some guys to come in and, like, do the
animation
screen stuff. Yeah.
Imagine if they use that same technology with HD, like, pictures and things. I think that would be kind of dope. Or even just take high resolution textures like that look lifelike. Would be, even for a small project, I would like to see that.
I think it'd be funny to see it now, like the same practice, but like you said, like they do this with like, like red cameras and stuff like that. Like that'd be really interesting to see.
Yo, because I mean, it would just be more like games would be like movie-like. I mean, that's what movies just have. The bulbs and the green screens and the suits. I don't even know what the green suits. Is that what they're called?
I guess.
Yeah. You would think, as some like games that are just like made entirely like that, almost like home movies.
Like a reverse engineering in a way, like the way Cuphead was made, that looks like a 1940s animation. They can do the kind of same concept in a way with the way Mortal Kombat was made in NBA Jam and make it now. And it will look much more believable. It will be photorealistic. It'll be pretty interesting. Maybe we'll see it in our lifetime. I think that'll possibly happen.
Yeah, no, it's. I hope so. Just because overall, I think one of the biggest takeaways from what I've seen in the doc so far, and I hope to continue to see, is like the different ingenuity, like a lot of people took with these games, like back in the day, it became successful because of it, and like they changed the whole industry. And it's crazy how throughout, even nowadays, before esports really blew up, how people are able to change the world, even like leave their imprint on the world through games. We've been told like there's no future in, video games, no waste your time and that type of stuff. But this doc literally gives you accounts of people who are in the same place as we are, or we were, or, different periods of time who didn't even have as much technology, but they had a passion for games, and they were able to, do some really cool shit with it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think what the takeaway that the doc gives is, don't let anyone tell you shit. Like, when it comes to game, man, follow your passions, follow your dreams, because like your idea may just change the world. Like the guy who made Space Invaders, he saw War of the Worlds by Orson Welles, and he was like, he really thought like aliens was gonna look like squids and stuff, and like, shoot, he was one of the old grandfathers of games that led to other games that led to another game, and your idea might inspire someone to create even the next big thing. Like, that's what is cool, and I think that's what it's all about.